Right now, somewhere in your home, there is an object built for one purpose: pleasure. You don't think of it as remarkable. To you, it's just a thing people own, as ordinary as a spoon. But that object is not modern. It's not new. It is one of the oldest ideas your species has ever had. Older than farming, older than writing, older than the wheel. Long before anyone you descend from planted a seed or carved a word into stone, someone just like you sat in the dark and shaped a private little tool for comfort. And they did it with the same care you'd give a weapon meant to keep them alive. So the question is simple. When did it start? When did a human being first decide that pleasure was worth building for? You'd assume the answer lives somewhere comfortable, somewhere recent. It doesn't. It goes back further than almost anything you call history. And the deeper you follow it, the stranger it gets. Go back 28,000 years. You are standing in a cave in what will one day be called Germany. But there is no Germany. There are no countries, no cities, no names for the months. The ice has swallowed most of the world you know. Outside, the cold is the kind that kills in an afternoon, and the people huddled in this cave with you are some of the only humans alive on the entire continent. There are maybe a few hundred of them within 100 miles. That's it. Look around. That's everyone. That's the whole world. And one of them is making something. You watch their hands. They have a piece of siltstone, smooth and gray, and they are grinding it, polishing it, shaping it, with a patience that takes hours. This is not careless. They are not bored. In a world where every minute is survival, where the wrong choice means starving before spring, this person is spending precious daylight on an object that will not feed anyone, will not warm anyone, will not kill anything. They are making it because they want to, and when they finish, it is unmistakably, deliberately, shaped like part of the human body. An intimate object, 20 centimeters long, polished to a shine, carved with careful rings around one end. This object is real. Archaeologists pulled it out of the ground at a site called Hohle Fels in 2005, in 14 broken pieces, and when they fit it back together, they went quiet. Because there was no mistaking what it was. 28,000 years old, one of the oldest sculptures of the human body ever found, and the people who study it for a living will tell you, carefully, that its purpose may not have been only symbolic. Now, you have to understand what that means. This was made before the last ice age even ended, before dogs were fully tamed, before the first village, the first field, the first written word. Whoever shaped it lived in a world so empty and so cold, you can barely hold the picture in your head. And in that world, surrounded by death, they chose to make this. That's the part that should stop you. Not that it existed, that it existed then. And it wasn't a strange one-off either. In the same era, across the same frozen continent, those people were carving small figures of the human body out of stone and ivory, shaping them with the same loving attention. They were painting animals on cave walls by firelight. They were decorating themselves, burying their dead with care, making beauty in the middle of an apocalypse of ice. The object you just watched them polish wasn't an accident. It was part of a people who, even at the very edge of survival, refused to let life be only about surviving. But here is what almost no one realizes. The Hohle Fels object is not alone. It's just the oldest one we've found that survived intact. Scattered across Ice Age Europe, in cave after cave, archaeologists keep finding the same shape. Carved in stone, carved in antler, carved in bone. Some so smoothed by handling that the surface has gone soft and round. These people had no metal, no script, no maps. But across thousands of years and thousands of miles, the same idea kept appearing in their hands, again and again and again. And then the world changed. Move forward, the ice retreats. The villages rise, the cities come, and with them, writing. And the moment humans can finally record their own lives, they record this too. You are in ancient Greece now, 2,400 years ago. The streets of a city like Athens are loud and bright and crowded in a way no Ice Age human could have imagined. And here, the kind of object you watched someone polish in a frozen cave has a name and a market. It is not a secret. It is not hidden away in shame. You can buy one openly, right there among the stalls, alongside the bread and the oil and the pottery. There was even a city famous for making the best ones. Miletus, on the coast of what is now Turkey, was known across the Greek world for its fine leatherwork in exactly this trade. People wrote about it. Playwrights joked about it on stage, in front of thousands of laughing citizens. In one famous comedy, the women of Greece complain that with their men away at war, they can't even get a decent one anymore, because the supply from Miletus has been cut off. The audience would have understood the joke in an instant, because everyone knew. Think about that for a moment. This wasn't whispered. It wasn't a scandal. It was so ordinary that you could make a joke about the supply chain and an entire theater would roar with laughter, the same way you'd laugh today about your favorite shop running out of stock. The poets, the writers, the comedians, all of them treated it as simply a fact of life, something people had, something people wanted, nothing stranger than that. And the Greeks were practical about it. If you were wealthy, you bought a finely made leather one, oiled and shaped by a craftsman. But not everyone was wealthy, so there are records, real ones, of people making their own out of whatever they had on hand, even out of bread, firm loaves, baked dense and shaped for the purpose. The word for it survives in old Greek writing, a small, human reminder that desire has never once waited for money. People used what was in front of them. They always have. You would have too. But the Greeks were not the only ones. Travel east. You are in China now, under the Han Dynasty, around 2,000 years ago. An emperor's relative, a prince, has died, and his tomb is being filled, as the tombs of the powerful always were, with everything he might need in the next life. The food, the weapons, the jade, the servants carved in clay to serve him forever. And among all of it, placed carefully with the rest of his most personal belongings, are objects of bronze, made for intimacy and comfort. You know this because archaeologists have opened those tombs. In the burial sites of Han Dynasty nobility, they have found these objects, made of bronze, some of lacquered wood, crafted with real skill and real expense. And the placement tells you something the Greek jokes never could. These weren't just things people used in life and threw away. They were things people wanted with them in death. They were considered part of who you were, part of what you would carry into whatever came next. Stop and feel the weight of that. A man who had everything, an entire kingdom's worth of treasure to bury, decided that this belonged among the things that defined him for eternity. Not hidden, not discarded, buried with honor, beside the gold. And it never stops. Picture Rome at its height. The roads, the aqueducts, the markets stretching across 3 continents. You could walk through a Roman town and find these objects shaped in bronze, in stone, in leather, traded along the same routes that carried wine and silver and grain. An empire that ran on order and law and conquest still made room, openly, for this. It was simply part of life. And it isn't only the West. Look anywhere people left a record of themselves, and you find it waiting. Across Asia, across the ancient Mediterranean, across cultures that never once met or traded or shared a single word, the same idea appears, invented over and over by people who had no clue anyone else had ever thought of it. That's the tell. When an idea shows up everywhere, independently, with no one passing it along, it isn't a fashion. It's something built into what you are. Then come the medieval centuries, and despite every authority that tried to shame it out of existence, it refused to disappear. Through the Renaissance, through the long stretches of history nobody likes to talk about, the shape that someone first polished in a frozen cave 28,000 years ago never once vanished from human hands. Not for a single generation. Not once in all that time. So go back to the question you started with. When did humans start making toys for pleasure? And now you can feel how strange the real answer is. Because there is no start. There's no moment of invention. No clever ancestor who thought of it first, while everyone else stared in confusion. As far back as you can dig, as far back as anything survives, it is already there. It predates your language. It predates your religion. It predates the very idea of a country, a law, a god with a name. It is one of the few things your species was already doing before we were even fully who we are now. Most people assume your deepest history is a story of survival and nothing else. Hunting, fleeing, fighting the cold. And it was all of that. But that was never the whole story. Because in the same caves where they sheltered from animals that could kill them, where they buried the children who didn't survive the winter, where they painted the walls by firelight, they also did this. They made room for comfort. They made room for tenderness. They made room for the parts of being alive that have nothing to do with staying alive. That's what the artifacts are really telling you. Not that ancient humans were strange. The opposite. Strip away the ice and the bronze and the marble, and the person polishing that stone in the dark wanted exactly what you want. To feel something. To not be only a body fighting its way to morning. To hold one small thing in their hands that existed purely because they were human, and being human has always been about more than survival. You think of yourself as modern. You think the distance between you and them is enormous. All that technology, all that comfort, all those extra years of life, and it is. But this one quiet thing reaches all the way across it, 28,000 years, and the same need, the same hands, the same small act of making something just to feel a little more alive. They are not as far from you as you think. They never were. And the next time you picture the people who came before you, the ones you imagine as grim and frozen and only ever afraid, remember the cave. Remember the hours someone spent grinding a piece of stone smooth while the ice pressed in on every side. They were cold, they were hungry, they were surrounded by death, and they still made time for this. Because they were you. They were always you. And you have wanted the same quiet comforts since long before you had the words to ask for them.